Okay, guys, we just shot a whole little mini podcast session here with Tim, my buddy Tim. I'm really happy to be here, first and foremost. Just getting to hang out with you, a cool dude, being able to have just bro time and do some cool work.
Well, I am a bro and I am a cool dude.
And you have some time.
And I have time.
And you have time. But I just kind of wanted to get some questions and some background on you. So start us off with who you are. You know, maybe less on what you did, but like, how do you see yourself?
Who is Tim?
Who is Tim?
Who is Tim?
Who is Tim?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm always trying to figure that out. I'm always learning who I am.
Yeah.
So my name's Tim Selbrede. I was born and raised in the desert in Southern California. I spent a few years in Ranger Regiment and 2nd Battalion out of Washington as a medic. And I was a fireman for the Forest Service in the Angeles National Forest for a while.
You're a seasoned guy.
I should have way worse knees than I do, honestly. My knees are doing really good given my resume.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, I worked for a firearms manufacturer based out of Minnesota for a few years, which has been like one of the most life-changing opportunities I've ever had. I mean, my entire course changed when I started working for Maxim Defense. So I'm a Christian. First and foremost, I'm a member of the Catholic Church. Still pretty active. I'll go to non-denominational services because I've got no problem going to them.
Yeah.
I enjoy
all Christians. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we all have the same boss, you know. And I really, I'm challenged to learn different stuff when I go to other churches. But yeah, I'm a dog dad. I've got a couple Labradoodles who.
You hear that, ladies?
Yeah, I got puppies. But no, man, I'm just a dude trying to figure it out and trying to do the right thing. I don't always get it right, that's for sure. But yeah, man, that's
Good.
I don't know. I'm always trying to figure out who Tim is.
Always a student of life.
I'm a student of myself for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta. I feel like if you ever get to the point where I know myself. Don't get me wrong. Like I definitely know what I stand on. I definitely know what my values are. What are some of the principles that I will die on.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I've been a biker, I've been a fireman, I've been a soldier, I've, worn scrubs, I've delivered babies and shit, and I don't know, man, it's kind of like Semper Gumby, always flexible.
Semper Gumby.
Gotta try to learn. I wish I could say I thought of that. I
no,
took that from Generation Kill.
That's
but,
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, okay, so let me kind of break down what the Man Project is in a general sense, and I'll do some follow-up questions with you. The Man Project is a docuseries following me, just showing growth of a young man who has finally realized that it's time to grow up and be a man. I found myself in a spot where I'm like, oh shit, I need to do some stuff. I need to correct myself, and I need to learn to love myself a little bit more. And I had a really hard time doing that at the beginning of this year and of last year. So really the whole goal is to just document how my life is, what I'm doing, and see where the contrast is 52 weeks later.
Sure.
So the main questions I wanted to bring to you were, how difficult is it to be a young man? Because I'm asking you this for my own sake. How difficult is it to be a man or a young man in this day and age?
It's interesting that you bring that up because as I throw a substance in my face. I've been really blessed over the last probably 8 months to work with Phil Labonte, the lead singer of All That Remains, and my friend Amy Sanchez, who's done a lot of work in DC. We're actually trying to address this issue with young men and boys and men in general in our country right now through like legislation and hoping to get some FaceTime with the president and maybe make some stuff happen. But being a man has always been hard forever. And don't get me wrong, ladies. I know you have it bad too. Trust me, I do. We really do believe that.
Yes.
But today's society and challenges, I think, they're very unique. Don't get me wrong. Every time period you could make a snapshot of time is uniquely difficult to them at that time, right? 80 years ago we had World War II. 80 years before that was Civil War. 80 years before that was American Revolution. And things were turbulent in those times. But with men now, it's easy to see where they lose their sense of purpose, where they get dejected. The internet has been, on one hand, the greatest thing and the worst thing ever.
Typically,
unleashed.
when it's something so impactful, it has an impact everywhere.
Well, you have a lot of guys that are sitting there looking at, famous dudes that are not always good influencers and tape. And they're toxic, right? And these guys are getting advice that is completely counterintuitive to like what it means to be a functioning member of society, but specifically a man in a society. I think right now men have been, kind of browbeaten for so many, like the last 10 years in the Western society through media. If you watch TV, it's always the boo-hoo, dumb idiot dad and the super smart mom of the family that like runs the show. And men are painted in a negative light. So I think, I think there's a lot of men out there that are getting the shit end of the stick downstream of that kind of message.
Yeah. Well, okay, and even further past that, internally as a man, like forget the negative influence from other people, because we can learn and grow past we don't have to care about what other people think about us, right? Yeah. That takes a long time to know in and of itself, but when you finally reach that inner level of the shit that we have to deal with internally, I mean, just as people, really, but how difficult is that?
Well, I'm 39, right? And I'm still trying to figure out some of that stuff. Going through periods of unemployment or divorce, general depressive episodes. These are things that I've experienced fairly recently, and there's that inner voice that you have to fight that exists all the time. That's like saying, you're a fuck up, you aren't good enough, you're doing things wrong. And you got to realize that a lot of that actually still is an external voice that makes its way inside of you. Okay. Like when you compare yourself to others where you're supposed to be, society's got this kind of unspoken but very present thing of like, well, men are supposed to have this by this age and they're supposed to be making this amount of money and blah, 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 blah. And if you don't have that, you rob yourself of living in the present and then the joy and like realizing like, dude, honestly, it's pretty freaking awesome being alive. Like being alive is pretty damn great. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact that you are even alive to begin with is a miracle in and of itself. Yeah. So no, that voice is real. I'm going to tell you as a younger man, you're always going to need to be working on something about yourself, right? Like you could always be better in another area. You could always have more discipline, or you could always have more drive for something, but you also could always be better at resting. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Taking that moment to just sit in it, right? I think a lot of men struggle to just sit in a room reading a book with no music, no other external stimuli. Yeah, same here. And I have ADHD like a son of a bitch. And, my mind, like what's going on in Tim's brain? Just a monkey smashing cymbals.
Yeah, with the static in the background.
Yeah. Deftones playing, Knock Loose playing, some Kesha.
Yep. Somewhere in there.
Some Biebs. Yeah, But yeah, I think the one thing that younger men especially, and I would probably still include myself in this younger men, because God knows some 6-year-old's gonna tell me I'm a child still, is to cut yourself some fucking slack. Yeah. Cut yourself some fucking slack. And I'm not always good about this. I'm very critical about myself.
You think that's something that's easy to say, hard to do?
Oh, 100%.
Looking at outwardly towards someone else's life is like, bro, you're doing okay. Just take a chill pill.
Oh yeah. I've had countless people tell me, because I'm dealing with my own stuff right now, and I've had countless people tell me like, bro, take a minute and think about that, think about this, and like, look, that's you I'm describing. You're like, I don't see it, I think that's normal, right? But when it becomes a problem is when you live there. Yeah. When you can't self-arrest out of that, that vicious cycle. Yeah.
My mom always liked to say, like, you can't really see the forest when you're staring at trees, right? Yeah. You're in the thick of it. You don't know how big the issue is, the forest is, right? You can't look outwardly at your life because you're so deep inside of it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at a painting and you're only this far from it, like, what are you going to actually see?
How do you see the whole picture?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And man, I think God has thankfully he has this ability and a desire to make you stop and chill for a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think he puts things in front of you that make you go like, all right, I need to take some inventory. take a look around, change my socks, drink some water. And then, like I said, kind of like we were out today shooting, photography out in the desert. And I'm like, man, I'm doing this in my hometown. And this is cool, and we were out there with that burned out Jeep, which was so cool. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
It's so Cal City. It's so desert.
It'll end up in a police report.
I mean, we looked out towards the west there, and there's one of the most beautiful sunsets on the face of the earth out there right now. And it's easy for me to sit there and kind of look in the town that I'm in and be like, ugh.
Sure.
There's a lot to be ugh about, but at the same time, man, we're out there playing around in the mud, doing whatever we want.
Yeah. We get to kit up and load out and have fun.
There's going to be shit no matter what you do and where you're at. But there's always good. There's always a silver lining. I'm an optimist by default. It drives everyone crazy probably, but you can't be from 2nd Ranger Battalion and not be an optimist. I fucking know it's raining. Shut up. Stop talking about the rain.
Yep.
If you keep talking about the rain, it's going to keep raining.
Yeah.
As soon as you stop talking about the rain, it's going to stop raining. And it's like the desert. Like when I was a fireman, like one of the surefire ways to get everybody to tell you to shut up right away is if they're like, man, it's hot. Like, yeah, no shit. We know, dude.
Be quiet.
Stop pointing out the shit that we're dealing with, right? And, if you stop focusing on these external factors or even the internal ones, you realize there's some pretty dope shit going on around you.
Yeah. So being able to shut out the internal negative, right? The external negative is something we can practice fairly easily, right?
Yeah.
It's raining. Let's not think about the rain. Let's think about the fact that we're breathing and we're alive and we have all this, opportunity in front of us, right?
Yeah.
Now, focusing on the internal good over the internal bad is a little bit more difficult, mostly because I can't comprehend a lot of the feelings that I have.
Sure.
That's something that you have to kind of sit in and literally just sit in the turmoil of emotion.
Yeah.
And feel it and figure it out.
Well, I'm a guy that's gone through some therapy, and therapy is not for everybody, right? Not everybody needs to go to therapy.
Therapy also looks way different to other people.
It does, right? And men struggle with traditional psychotherapy because we're asked to like, well, how does that make you feel? And guys don't know how to express how this feels. So what they say is, I don't know, and they start to shut down. They start to internalize, and they can't express it, and it frustrates them, and it builds and it builds, and like it's like putting like a microphone to an amplifier. It's going to reverberate on itself. You feed it, make it worse until you pull the microphone away. So no, I don't think therapy is for everybody. I think a lot of the things that we struggle with could be fixed with a gym membership and a good diet and a nice a full night of sleep. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, hey, I take bubble baths.
I love bubble baths. I got Epsom salts.
I love some. Oh, I've got piles of it, man. Yeah. Let's do this. But no, shutting out that voice can be difficult. It's a learned skill, and there's going to be days where you're really good at it, and there's going to be days where you're not. You just don't seem like you're hitting your marks. Again, cut yourself some fucking slack, dude. It's true. At the end of the day, you're the only one that has to live your life, and at the end of the day, we all come out, or we all go out on our own. Whether or not you are surrounded by loved ones, you are going out on your own. Enjoy it, dude. Like to be alive, to be human is awesome, right? You're gonna err all the way to the day you check out. Surrendering yourself to the Lord is big too, and I think if people, if you've ever been to AA, they always tell you got to find that higher power.
Yeah.
And
12 steps, right?
Yeah. As long as it's not 13 steps. You know what I mean?
That's reasons, I think.
Well, the 13th step is you can Google that. It's not good.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, man, that internal dialogue. A red flag should be when you're constantly hearing that voice that says you are bad, you aren't good enough, you are fucked up, you aren't lovable. That is Satan. That is the devil talking to you, right? Like, God does not put that voice in your head. God will tell you that, no, you aren't good enough. You need my son. You need the blood of Christ, right? But when you've got that voice, it's like, you're not good enough. You're not worthy of God. You're not worthy of peace. You're not worthy of happiness. There's a reason why everyone leaves you, bro. Like, you can't get a girlfriend. You can't get a job.
Yeah.
Like, that's demonic. Yep. That is the devil talking to you.
100%. Yeah. How dangerous do you think the phrase is, I'm fine? You know, when you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
When someone
I've been
asks
saying
you,
it a lot lately.
like, no, I'm fine, or I'll figure it out. You know, like, I guess the real question is when is it okay to be vulnerable? You know, how hard is it to be vulnerable?
Sure.
And why is it important? Because I think it's personally very important. And I think it's a factor of being a man is being able to be vulnerable.
100%. Yeah.
I think to sum it all up, toxic masculinity I don't think exists. I don't think that it actually exists because you either are a man or you're an asshole. You know, if you are acting like a douche or an asshole, you're not inhibiting very manly traits.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, those are interesting questions. Like how dangerous is I'm fine or I'll figure it out. There's times where saying I'm fine is a legitimate answer.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm fine.
Sure.
No, I'm chilling.
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
But I have definitely used it a lot where I'm like, I'm fine and I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Creating that gate for yourself.
Yeah, you know, because I don't want to talk about it. I'm so exhausted from feeling this way. I'm going to be more exhausted talking about this more. The more I talk about it, the more I'm focusing on it. You know, there's times where, you know, it's totally acceptable to say those two phrases. And I will figure it out should also not be something that's considered a negative.
Yeah.
Like, you can use that as a self-driving mantra. Like, I am going to figure this out.
Yeah.
There's no one coming to rescue me.
Yeah.
Your self-extrication is going to be the day's work.
Yeah.
Right? However, with that said, man, reach out to talk to people, right? Yeah. And you don't have to be super vulnerable, like, on day one. Like, that's a learned skill, too. And what that looks like is different to everybody, right? Like, I've got some friends that have seen me ugly cry, you know, and recently. Mm-hmm. And I've got some folks that I can't be that open with, but I can still get my cup filled up from them. Yeah. That's you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, you know, so you have to take those times, like we talked about, that self-care, taking that knee, changing your socks out, drinking some water.
To fill your own cup. Yeah,
you know, you can't give out pieces of yourself to people constantly and wonder how did I get here, you know? But, you know, being vulnerable, it's the strongest thing you can do, right? And I know guys are afraid to do it because the internet's got everyone thinking if you're vulnerable to a girl, she's going to lose respect for you, man. And then she ain't your girl.
Yeah. And
she ain't your girl, dude. If you can't be vulnerable to your woman, that ain't your girl.
Yep.
Right? And for ladies that might be watching this, like, you got to let your man be vulnerable, because if this guy's supposed to be tough as nails everywhere, you're the one place that he's supposed to be.
Safe haven.
You're supposed to be that safe haven, right? So but that just comes in. That's a whole other conversation about couples and communicating.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
It's a whole other ballgame. But no, I think it's important to be vulnerable and to be authentic and to thy own self be true. You got to be true to yourself.
Yeah, I love that. It's perfect.
I learned it in AA.
They got some good plans going. They don't serve drinks there, do they?
Coffee. Lots of coffee.
Man. So this is, I hate to do the whole Grantham thing again, but like, like advice to yourself or to somebody, something that you've learned or maybe recently developed that you wish you had learned earlier, or maybe something that really sticks out as your primary purpose or primary message that you want to give to people who are in the spot that you were, or, you know, find themselves in that hard area. What's that piece of advice?
Man, I've probably said it 100 times already. Is like to be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. You need to be your biggest ambassador and your biggest fan, and it's understandable when guys struggle with that. Like, I struggle with it, right? And like, I'm almost 40. Yeah. Cut yourself the slack. This is the first time I've ever been this old, right? And tomorrow will be the first time I've ever been that old.
Nice. Yeah.
Understand that just because someone else makes it look easy doesn't mean that they've got it figured out. In fact, most people don't have any of this shit figured out. Yeah. That's not saying that guys don't know how to do their jobs, right? But, I don't have any biological children of my own. I was very, very blessed and fortunate to be a stepfather for a number of years to 3 amazing, amazing girls. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, it was such a culture shock. Not a culture shock. It was just such a shock to be a dad. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is how it's going to be. Nope. Like, there's a lot of nights I just ate macaroni and cheese out of a pot over the sink. You know what I mean? Like, I made a nice meal and all of them hate it. It happens. Advice that I give myself is to be patient with the process. You're going to get set back in life. That just comes with the territory of being alive, man. You're going to experience a lot of loss. You're going to lose friends that you would never thought that you would lose, whether it's to disease, tragedy, or growing apart, or betrayal.
Yeah.
Mean what you say and say what you mean. Don't overshare. Just do it. Don't talk about what you want to do. Do it. I've messed that up a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm in that phase right now. I get it.
Yeah, I would tell my ex-wife, like, oh, we're gonna go do this, and she's like, all right, well, plan it, and I didn't, right, and I dropped the ball those ways. Take the time to enjoy the little things. Eat dessert first. Eat the pie. It's gonna be all right. Eat that second piece of pie.
Sure.
Consume eggnog.
Eggnog.
I love eggnog. You hear that?
If you want to send us any gifts,
if you want to send any gifts, key lime pie and eggnog, so we can become fatter than we already are.
But mentally stable.
Don't spend get off. There's nothing wrong with hobbies that turn the brain off. Like, 'cause for men, our brains work differently than women. Why do you play video games? It's a way for people to escape stuff and turn things off and just kind of focus on a singular, mundane, dumb task.
Like cooking for me. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus on cooking something.
For me, it's working arts and crafts in here. Like,
Beautiful.
I love doing the laser engraving stuff. It's a way that I can express my love for others by making things for them. But, you gotta find the little things, but don't tune out all the time. You gotta turn the video games off. You gotta get in the gym.
Yeah.
Go for that walk. Read a book. Slow down. I would tell myself a lot, slow down and cut myself some slack. You're not. You are wherever you are is where you are, and that's where you're supposed to be at that given moment, right? Whether I'm loaded with money or I'm eating SpaghettiOs for 3 days at a time, right? Like
ramen for breakfast,
ramen for dinner. Just watching my salt levels go up.
Sodium.
Yeah, and my iron go down. No, I know that's kind of a modge of.
No, it's all important stuff. So yeah, and that's really about it, man. Everyone, again, this is Tim Selbrede. Selbrede.
Close enough.
Tom Brady.
Oh, God.
This is Tim Selbrede. Great friend of mine. It was one of those connections where you just kind of like, no, you meet him for the first couple times, like, okay, you're sticking around.
Yeah.
And I find that really rare nowadays. That concludes this interview. Thank you for your time. And I'll be out here way more often now.
Well, maybe we'll be doing some stuff in Georgia.
Ooh, I like that. All right. Cut.
Bye.
Bye.